My name is Michiel van Deursen. I'm a vegan investor. I really think the founders, you invest in the founders because the product can change, the market can change, everything can change. But the founders, they have to do it. They have to run the company.
Hey everyone, today we're interviewing Michiel van Deursen, which is a vegan investor that invests in vegan businesses to help grow the plant-based movement. So the reason I'm doing this interview is because up until this point, I spoke with a number of vegan businesses, nonprofit organizations, grassroots movements, political organization, lobbying groups, material innovation, and all this is tying together where people have the motivation, the willpower, the know-how, and the team to really grow the vegan movement. But the one thing that's lacking from achieving their full vision is really the capital and the funding to make their vision grow. So that's why I reached out and I wanted to interview him to really see what it takes for vegan businesses and nonprofits to get the funding from investors and donors needed to move the plant-based movement forward. And if you want to learn more about him and his organizations, click the links in the description. I put them down there. There's many organizations you go to for vegan investing. So enjoy the video.
My background is not in food or anything. It's I studied psychology. And at that time, I started a tech company while I was a student, and it was a classifieds ad website. And it became quite big, and as you say, we needed money for that. You need money to grow a business often, and there was no money to be raised. There was a crisis going on, so I started another company to make money and to bootstrap ourselves. And that company was internet agency creating websites for big corporates, and that went really well. We had a lot of developers walking around, but what I learned there is that focus is so important because the classified ads website didn't get that much focus anymore. We focused on the big business, and we lost that market. And there's a winner takes all market. So in the Netherlands, another company came there. But I saw in Belgium, there were a lot of people on our website trading with each other, and there was no competitor there yet, no winner. So I moved to Belgium the same week. We had funding from ourselves and started to build that platform 100% focused in French, in the local language, talk with all the customers there. I learned a lot about the market, about their motivations, and I grew the platform, and we became the biggest classifieds ad website in that country. I sold that to eBay some time later when we were really the winner in the market. And then also the other company that I still had, we turned that along the way. It's a long story. I will save you from that. But along the way, because of another financial crisis, we turned that into an accelerator. We were not working for customers anymore, but for startups, giving them a few developers, office space, some money, coaching. And that's where I set my first steps into investing, right? Into being an angel investor, helping other people start companies. It was all in technology. And then after I sold my company to eBay, I thought technology is big now. I started this space because internet was really exciting, growing space. There was so much possible. And it was so fun to be in, and it was mature. So I sold everything, and I went on a trip around the world, more or less, to think what's next, to find myself. I started training for Ironman because I needed to be a bit more healthy after all these years online, sitting behind a screen. And that's where I discovered during the Ironman training that food, how important food is, how important everything is, how connected that is for the planet and for the animals. You know, all the beautiful places I saw in the world, they were all threatened by the climate, stuff like that. And that's why I understood how important animal products are, well, I found out how important it was to not use animal products anymore. And I started looking around and I thought, this is exciting. This is like the internet in the past. I want to be part of this. Why doesn't everybody know what I just learned? And it's so exciting. This was, I think, 5-6 years ago, 2014. And then I watched, of course, Cowspiracy came out. I watched that and I thought, I need to be vegan overnight. So I went vegan. And then I thought, I need to do something here. And I looked around, and there was one company in Holland, back in Holland, that was the Vegetarian Butcher, and there were a few guys creating meat for meat lovers, but from plants. So they really were ahead of their time, and I thought, this is amazing. I want to be part of that. So I contacted them. I said, do you need help? Do you need an entrepreneur maybe? Do you need money? And we talked, and it clicked, and I became an investor in their company, and saw it grow from the other side, from the investor perspective. In the end, we became active in like 15, 16 countries, became market leader in Holland, in the Netherlands, and sold that in the end to grow bigger, because we wanted to be the biggest butcher in the world, to Unilever a few years ago. And after that, I just I thought I need, well, this is super exciting world. I need to I can use my experience and finance to help other startups around the world to grow and to make the world more vegan. My motivation for investing in vegan companies is because I really want to make an impact, and I think this is the place where you can make the most impact, because you can make impact on a lot of in a lot of areas at the same time. It's climate and planet. We all know that animal products production is not good for that, but also health. A lot of people are unhealthy. A lot of illnesses are diet related. You can solve that with plant-based food. Animal, of course, animal welfare. It's all unneeded, the suffering of all the animals. And I think biodiversity is a big theme. We need to have more biodiversity. And that's also possible if you take out the animals out of production. So the impact you can make is enormous with this.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always wanted to make an impact in the world with business, and kind of fell into veganism. I've been vegan for 3 years now, well, more than 3 years, and just realized like this is the best way to make the maximum impact on the world. In a previous interview, I interviewed Paul Shapiro, the author of Clean Meat, where he talks about cellular-based agriculture. So I think one of the questions I want to ask you for this is, are there certain spaces that people, entrepreneurs might want to go into, or investors have a bigger interest in? So I know there's plant-based burgers, Beyond Meat is really taking off, where the next thing seems to be cellular-based agriculture. Do investors want to go in one specific area, or is there larger opportunity in some versus others, or what are your ideas on that?
Well, at this moment, I think there's so much opportunity everywhere, because the whole market is growing. There's more consumers coming online on board every day. So if the tide rises, all boats float, or something. So I think there are, well, burgers and bowls and stuff like that. It's more or less a commodity now. So you really need to have a good product and a good concept to gain attention in that market. But all the other products, animal products, they still have to be converted into plant-based. I think there's a lot of opportunity. The more difficult, the more niche products. I think cell-based, of course, it's more capital intensive. It's a longer time it takes to get to market. I think what's really interesting now is fermentation. A lot of investors are looking into fermentation. It's a really old technology, but it's still unexplored in this area. So there's a lot of possibilities there as well.
Definitely. For the fermentation, that's just the process of making the cellular-based meat. Is that right? Or is there something separate there?
Yes, but you can also use, you can use actually anything and ferment it. It's like, it's how they make beer, in fact, you know, also. It's a technology between actually growing cells in the lab and having plants and then process them. It's in between there. You have plants, or anything, and you use fermentation to make more.
Definitely, yeah. One of the things Paul said during his interview was that like the opportunities there just beyond imagination, where you could eat a hamburger, take out saturated fat, put in omega-3s, so all of a sudden the burger lowers cholesterol instead of raising it.
You can also mix it, right? You can have plant-based and cell-based and mix it. So get a structure printed, 3D printed with cells, and then add plant-based for the taste. There's going to be so much opportunities for new products that we haven't even thought of.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Okay, talking about the vegan investing landscape as a whole, there's angel investors, VCs, some people invest only in early stage companies versus more traction. So, kind of speaking to vegan business owners or aspiring vegan business owners who want capital, I know myself, I always think in the early stages, people wouldn't really want an interest putting money in yet until it makes millions of dollars. So, kind of opening up the world behind the scenes of vegan investing, can you address maybe some of those concerns or what different investors look in or different types that might appeal to different types of businesses?
Yeah, there are as many investment types as there are investors, I would say. But in general, you can categorize them as you have investors, you call them angels, and they do more or less the earlier stages, from when a company isn't even founded to when the first products come online. And then when you have traction, when you have revenue more or less like a few 100,000 or 1 million or so, then the VCs come in, and that's really venture capital. They come also in with bigger, with more money and more professional they are, I would say, than the angels. So
Definitely.
you have angel investors, angel groups, and they do the seed rounds. You even have family and friends. You have, when you talk about rounds, first when you have an idea or something, you start financing it yourself, maybe with family or friends. You call that the family and friends round, or the pre-seed round, where you just get everything you can get and start the company and see what you can do with it to get some proof of concept ready, or track record. And then you get the seed round, where you get actually the early stage investors, like the angel investors, and they help you get to the next stage, where you can actually show that you have traction, where you can prove that your margins are right, that your numbers will add up if you pour in more money. And then the bigger investors like the VCs come in, and they take you, actually, they help you take to that next level of a big company.
Definitely. I experienced that firsthand with the company I did the marketing with before, where the founder funded to the beginning, then we got to a certain level of product validation, then got a angel investor, then got a certain amount of sales, and kind of view it as like going up a ladder. So
Yeah.
when it comes to companies you invest in, what specifically are you looking for between product, sales, team, etc. for yourself?
Yeah, there are a few things I'm looking at. It's obviously team, the product, the market, and the numbers, and a lot more, of course. But these are, I think, the categories that are most important. The team, I really think the founders. You invest in the founders because the product can change, the market can change, everything can change. But the founders, they have to do it. They have to run the company. They really need to be focused. I think they need to have a passion, be mission aligned. As an early stage investor, I have a really long relationship with the founders, so it needs to also have a personal relation, a personal click. The product, it needs to be new for me. It needs to be innovative. It needs to also be possible to scale. Otherwise, you don't have impact if it doesn't scale. So you need to really be in the future, be possible that it can grow. And this also connects with the numbers. Of course, everything can scale if you put enough money in it, but you also have to have a healthy company. So the numbers have to add it up. Can you make profit when you sell a lot of product? Do the numbers add up? Is there a market for it? And how big is that market? And things like that. And then you have a lot of variables, and based on that, I make a decision.
Great. And you kind of said back before that for your first company, did you have outside investors? Or did you just kind of bootstrap it with yourself and the money you made?
Yeah, with my first company, I bootstrapped everything. I started out really, we were not funded at all. There was a crisis going on. So in the nights, I got a job as a taxi driver. I drove around in a taxi and get some money for the servers and for food myself. It's like ramen profitable, but with the taxi. I was working in the night on my taxi, and in the day on my startup.
That's a great story.
Sleep was not really. And I slept. I tried to sleep here and there for an hour in between.
A little sacrifice of sleep. It's kind of like my first startup was an app company. I built a portfolio of 20 different apps where I was working a job during the day, customer service job. Then I got home at night. I moved into an apartment with two other aspiring entrepreneurs. And we're all the first time we ever built a business. So when one of my roommates started making $0 to $45,000 a month and started scaling his business, it provided motivation for us and just work day, then put the money in at night. It's a fun experience.
Yeah, exactly. It's recommendable not to do it for too long, but it is a way to get to the first phase.
Definitely. That kind of leads to the next question where just from my experience with that, like I had the stable income, the money to put into the business where it was more equity ownership myself, but I reached a point where I couldn't scale as much, where it's like, okay, I have to pay myself the salary plus business expenses. I can't afford the extra $10,000 on the marketing campaign. So one of the questions I had for you was, I guess the upsides and the downsides of getting investment capital, where many founders dream of it, but I'm sure there's a lot of, things they don't know about. Can you address that a little bit?
Yeah, I think the downside of having investors on board is you have to give away shares, of course, in your company, and especially at an early stage company, you don't want to give away too many shares of your company because you need them later for bigger investment rounds, and also you want to keep the majority of the company for as long as you can to make the decisions. Another thing is if you pick the wrong investors, not the wrong investors in general, but for you, if there's no good match, then there's always these people are looking over your shoulder. So you're not the only captain on the ship, and they are critical, and you have to be you're responsible also for their money. So I think that's one of the things people don't realize. You're not 100% independent anymore. And with the wrong investor type for you, that can cause a lot of negative energy and stress. So that's why it's very important to pick the right investors for you if you have that shit.
Is there a process for like getting to know them for a certain amount of time first, or any advice on those areas? How to make sure you pick the right one?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just important to build a relationship with your investors. You don't even have to be raising, but when you have a company, it's good to always stay in contact with investors. Just share information about your company, maybe send out updates to investors that you know, and then you find out which ones are the ones that you connect with best, and maybe they can help you already. And then when you need your money, when you are raising, you have warm contacts and you can approach them, and they know you already. So the process will be shorter as well.
Perfect. And where do people go about finding investors? I know there's was it Vevolution? I hope I pronounced that right, where I think it was a plan to pitch competition that got my attention. That's how I eventually came in contact with you.
Oh, great. Yes. There's Vevolution.com. It's exactly a platform that is set up for this kind of thing. And there's, on the one hand, there are a lot of investors, vegan investors, investors interested in the vegan space. And you can, as a startup, upload your pitch deck on the platform. And all these investors will see your pitch deck and get, if they're interested, get in touch with you on the platform. So I would highly recommend subscribing to that one and pitch on Vevolution.com. And there are more angel groups. There are more groups of investors, and it's efficient to do to connect with them as well, I think.
Great. Yeah, like I said, that's where I connected with you, and that's where this interview spawned from. So it's a really great platform. Then I talked a lot about the founders. I guess on the flip side of that, somebody who might want to be a vegan investor to invest in different vegan companies. Do you have any specific advice for them to get in the sphere?
Yeah, I think if you really want to start, it's good to if you're starting from scratch as a vegan investor, it's good to test the waters, to just go in slowly. What I would recommend is join a group of investors. You can join Vevolution.com, for example, as a platform. Join a group of other investors, see how they do it, learn from them. They're always happy to help, and become a co-investor in a company. And do a few of these deals in the beginning, slowly, see how that works for you, see where you get where you are best, because every investor has added value in another space. And well, and if you find out how that works, you can accelerate your investments.
Awesome.
It is high risk. I think you have to understand it is high risk, not always high return financially, but it's worth it.
Definitely. And I know a lot of people watching this, they might not be accredited investors, where myself, I'm not in that category, where I found companies like WeFunder or Start Engine were equity crowdfunding platforms in the US, where you could put as little as $100 into a company, similar like Kickstarter, where you put money in, but instead of getting rewards back, you get equity or some type of ownership of the company. Whereas Vegan Fine Foods, which is an all vegan supermarket in Florida looking to franchise, I put money into them a couple years ago, and then there's a few more that popped out there. So there's that, and then also in the stock market, there's the Very Good Food Company and a few other ones which are on there. So
yeah. Totally, yeah. If you're not an accredited investor, it's worth investing in stocks. There are more IPOs, there are more vegan companies on the stock markets every month. And also crowdfunding is amazing. I think in the US it's just it's coming up. In the UK it's already very mature. You have Cedars there. A lot of vegan companies are raising money there in exchange for a share in the company. And yeah, it's totally worth giving that a try as well. Look at their pitch deck, see how that works, and get your toes in the water there.
definitely, yeah, I have no affiliation with any of them, but I think Start Engine was creating a platform where you could retrade shares after you invest, where that's one of the biggest things missing in the industry in the US, where I think they mentioned they're doing that. So it's good stuff there.
Yeah, and you even have, I think on AngelList, you have rolling funds now. They're minimum 5,000 per quarter. That's a bit more. But you also have, what do you call it? Investment funds going to the stock exchange, IPOing. I think in Canada you already have one, and I think there will be more as well. So there are more opportunities every month.
Great. Yeah, the kind of address the business side of things. Not sure if this is your area of expertise, but on the nonprofit grassroots movements, like early in the interview, I said there's the Brave New Life organization where my friend's starting that. I interviewed her, and they're looking to get funding to coming in. So traditional investors, people in your circles, do they typically contribute to nonprofits like that, or is it different routes of financing for them, or any advice for different nonprofits to get funding?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not Non-profits, I think a lot of investors, they give money to non-profits, but it's not seen as investing, because investing means you get a reward financially in the end if it's successful. So it's more like a donation, right? If you invest, if you give money to a non-profit. So it's a different approach, but I think a lot of investors are open for this kind of donations if it's a good proposition and they have a budget for that, they have allocated funds, but it's a different approach. It's a different budget, it's a different approach, it's a different mindset you need. So I wouldn't look at it as an investment.
Definitely.
If it
Yeah, I
makes
think
sense.
one idea I conceptualized with the company I'm starting, where a small portion of profits every month goes to help a different nonprofit start up as the company grows. So if one company needs, say, even $500 to get started, when the company's profitable, puts that in, helps them run on their own, and then repeat the process every month to spawn different little vegan nonprofits. And then one of the experiences I got is, even though it's not money return, oftentimes they promote us or the companies I've been with. So even a $500 donation, they could do a shout out on social media, and it's kind of like the ecosystem kind of paying itself back.
That's
Is
perfect.
really cool.
Yeah, that sounds great. I love these kind of constructions. I think in Germany you have ProVeg, or in Europe, and they are a non-profit, and they have an accelerator where mentors out of the space help the startups, business startups, and in exchange they get a percentage for the non-profit and stuff like that. It's just a nice way of a nice crossover between business and non-profit.
Definitely, yeah. I know PETA, they have a program built in where if different contribution levels, they do promotion to their 500,000 email subscribers. But I don't know, I'm passionate about the startup ones where the ones just getting started and they just need the extra room to grow, because I've been there in the past and been there kind of today.
Yeah, totally.
Guess what role do you see governments playing in growing the vegan economy?
I think governments have a really big role in this transition away from animals. I think governments are not the fastest movers. They take it slow, they take their time, but if they change, it will go fast. So and I think it will come because they have to apply to new rules about climate regulations. So if they even stop stop subsidizing animal agriculture, that will be a really big change for the industry. If they put their mind to if they are open as a government, you see some governments already, like in Singapore, they accepted cell-based meat as a food. I think in the Netherlands, the government is really working together with the private sector on plant-based foods and on cell-based foods with the university. If governments do things like that, there's a really big role for them, and they can also be the front runners in this new sector that is coming up.
Yeah, on this channel, I interviewed Emma Hurst. She's part of the Animal Justice Party here in New South Wales. I'm in Sydney, Australia, and
Yeah.
give really great information about how they're making the transition and the subsidies and helping kind of phase out slowly through there, because there's lots of jobs relying on animal agriculture, and flipping the switch off would not work for the government. And she says even 4 or 5 party members at the state level is enough to make wide scale change. So there's a whole section of the documentary doing that. And it's really cool to see a lot of people doing those.
Yeah, and in governments also a lot of people want to change, but it's just there are so many different parties involved and people involved, and they need to change. They need to change a bit slower.
What does the vegan investor community as a whole kind of need, in your opinion? Is there anything missing that you wish existed that would help all you investors out?
I am always looking at the new things. I think there are a lot of investors already investing in the food industry. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's super exciting. But what I think is also exciting is the non-food, the materials, with innovation in materials, alternative leather, for example. That's going to be huge. alternative other materials. I would really love to see a company that makes wool from non-plastic, but also non-animal products, but there is the same behavior, things like that. And also more niche products, like for example, baby food, pet food, things like that. They can make a massive change. They're not obviously the direct replacements for meat products, but they also need to change. And then there's obviously now really big interest in dairy, cheese, alternative cheese. That's more or less the holy grail for investors. And I think fish is also a sector that's really upcoming.
Definitely. Yeah, when I was talking to the Material Innovation Initiative, where they're talking about the different vegan materials, where they say the biggest thing is the suppliers and the creators of the materials, where I guess big shoe companies, they're kind of monopolizing most of the vegan leather coming into the market because there's not so much supply yet. So now's the time to get in to innovate different things. And kind of going back in time, I wish I majored in some type of science where I knew how to do the material innovation, because I guess they say like the spider web, the material from that, if that could be created, it's like stronger than anything else, and a lot of cool things there.
Really a lot of cool things there. And that's going to be the next big thing after food, I think. The fashion industry needs to be disrupted. What startup entrepreneurs need to do if you first start out your business and you don't have millions of dollars in sales yet? And I would say it's good to sell your vision, not keep it to yourself, but sell your vision, sell yourself, go out there, test it, talk about it, and then network, connect. And that way you can reach so many people, and who knows who you will connect with and who can help you further on your startup. And also how to connect with me. I'm very open to connections. I love to meet new companies. I do that via LinkedIn. I can always be connected on LinkedIn. And of course, via the Vivolution platform, I see all the routes that are coming in on there.
Great. Yeah, I'll put all the links in the description that you want to connect to. So anyone watching on YouTube or Facebook, I'll put it there.